Welcome along. There is the stench of hypocrisy, arrogance and corruption hanging over Downing Street. Do you remember when Sir Keir Starmer said this?
To change Britain, we must change ourselves. We need to clean up politics. No more VIP fast lanes, no more kickbacks for colleagues, no more revolving doors between government and the companies they regulate. I will restore standards in public life with a total crackdown on cronyism.
OK, well, before I get stuck into everything else, you might have missed this. Today it's emerged that the Labour Party's largest donation came from a Cayman Islands registered hedge fund with shares in fossil fuels, arms manufacturers and private healthcare. They took £4 million from a hedge fund that invests in everything they claim to hate, basically, on a tax haven that they claim that they want to clamp down on. The donation fell within the 1 week window where Labour didn't have to declare it until after the election. So it looks like they were trying to, maybe hide it. Now, can you imagine the outrage from Labour if the Tories had done exactly the same thing? In fact, look at this tweet from Angela Rayner there about Boris helping out his rich mates. Look at that. There it is. Well, Keir Starmer has accepted £107,000 in freebies from the likes of Lord Wahid Ali. The party's accepted millions from the offshore billionaires. He's stayed rent-free, apparently, in Lord Ali's £18 million flat. What are they getting out of all this? Is Lord Ali still sitting in on meetings in Downing Street? If so, why? The latest is this: Starmer's hospitality box at the Arsenal games. So here's his excuse.
I think most people watching this would say, well, fair dues. They'd think I was pretty self-centred if I said, I'd much prefer to be in the stands, by the way. If I said, I'm going in the stands and you, the taxpayer, are going to have to pick up the tab for the security.
OK, so you're saying that you're saving the taxpayer money, are you? OK, well, we think it's fair dues, do we? I mean, there is talk of Starmer's government bringing in a football regulator, and it doesn't take a genius to work out that Arsenal Football Club might be trying to butter him up, and he has a conflict of interest there, doesn't he? He could also, of course, just pay for it himself. He doesn't have to take the freebie. Another line today out of Labour is this:
got the chance for a little bit of time with family or something that's important to them, in this case, lifelong support for a football team. Again, I don't think that's a problem.
So basically, in a nutshell, he needs to keep taking these freebies so he can relax. Boris Johnson nearly died of COVID. He was trying to guide us through a pandemic, sign a Brexit deal. His wife had just given birth, and Keir Starmer wanted him to be arrested over a birthday cake. So to claim that Keir Starmer needs to take a load of freebies to relax, I think is absolutely ridiculous. And now it looks like the top civil servant, Simon Case, is going to resign early because he can't get on with Sue Gray. And people have been leaking information about her. Less than 100 days in, the top civil servant can't stand it any longer. People are leaking things left, right and centre. But Starmer now feels the need to come out and say he is completely in control. Well, you don't really have to say that, do you, if you are completely in control? Fossil fuel investors, arms manufacturers, private healthcare, offshore tax havens, British billionaires allowed into Downing Street, a football club worried about a new football regulator. What are they all getting for their money, Mr Starmer? Let's get the thoughts of my panel. Political editor at the Daily Express, Sam Lister. We've also got Conservative peer Lord Bailey and former Labour Party advisor Matthew Laza. I mean, Sam, we've got to know, haven't we? What are they all getting for their money from Mr Starmer?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? You know, day 76 of this government, and who'd have thought it would already be in this position? This is a sort of swirl of accusations and sleaze and smears and what have you that tend to dominate a government near the end of its term, not in its first flush of power. And I think the accusations just keep coming, don't they? Obviously, there's been this analysis that Keir Starmer has taken more freebies than anybody else who's currently sitting. You have to wonder why does he need these? Why does he have to take these freebies? We don't, you know, this is a man who's been on a high salary. He's been a top 1% earner for many, many years. How can he not afford to pay for his own glasses? How can he not afford to pay for football tickets? How can he not afford to pay for all these things?
And what is Lord Ali getting out of it? Is he still sitting in on meetings? Or the jury's out on that, as far as I can tell. But, Sean, you know, the other story that landed today about this £4 million from the Cayman Islands-based hedge fund, which includes investments in things like arms manufacturers, private healthcare, fossil fuels. I mean, those are all things that Labour Party has absolutely rallied against. And also, it looks like they received that money in that cushy little one-week window there, where it meant they didn't have to declare it until after the election, almost like they were trying to hide it. I mean, have they lost all kind of moral high ground here?
Look, no, there's two angles to look at this. There's some very clear rules about political donations. Can you take them when? If they didn't break those rules, they didn't break those rules. But will it clear the sniff test for the public? That remains to be seen. The other piece about freebies and all the rest of that is a real huge piece of hypocrisy. You yourself showed the tweet by Angela Rayner, and all of this talk about sleaze, when it looks like they were doing the same thing. And this is the challenge for the public and also the press. There's a double standard, because if these were Tory MPs, if this was Rishi, there'd be a tidal wave. And I wonder what the likes of The Guardian and The Mirror will say. And I'll tell you why as well, because people on the left, not necessarily Labour Party members, but people on the left will not like this.
No.
They will say, you've spoken about being green and all the rest of that, but these are your friends. You need to separate yourself from them. It's going to be a challenge.
Do you remember the sexism directed at Carrie Johnson? Oh, Carrie wants new wallpaper, does she? Carrie wants this. Well, I'm sorry, but, you know, Lady Starmer wanted a new wardrobe and she got it, didn't she?
Is that a question?
Yeah.
Well, look, I mean, it's not been a great week, to put it mildly, and I think the government needs to get a grip. Hopefully, with the party conference beginning at the weekend, a grip will be got. I mean, you know, we can go into the reasons why. You know, he still does pay for an Arsenal season ticket. The club kind of upgraded him because that's easier for the security detail. You know, we can go. We can have a discussion about how all prime ministers and their spouses are, you know, in the public eye, and therefore, you know, Wahid is a TV executive. Why he doesn't want anything out of it? Why all Wahid wants is the Labour government. Because he's deeply committed to the Labour Party. He goes canvassing, Sean. He goes canvassing.
Let me say something to you. I've sat in the Lords and have been lectured by Labour peers about Tory donors and their influences. You now have a Labour donor sat in number 10. I don't ever want to hear another election.
But he's not just a Labour donor, he's a Labour peer.
He's a Labour
and he was a Labour peer
donor.
before he was... I mean, look, he's deeply committed to the success of the Labour Party. He's, you know, nobody's saying that he's trying to get X, Y or Z, that he's got a particular business interest. That, I mean, he's kind of semi-retired from business anyway.
Yeah, but with respect, and look, this is genuinely, like, I'm not saying there's any truth to this whatsoever. I'm just saying it doesn't take a genius to suggest that the fabulously wealthy Lord Ali might have quite a lot to gain from being surrounded by people who might be about to make some serious decisions about tax and where those tax laws are going to change.
But he's known these people for...
He should never have had a pass to Downing Street. Nobody's ever explained.
That was an error of judgment.
Never explained why he had it. They said he was part of the transition team, but nobody's explained why he had the pass. As soon as the press found out about the pass, they rescinded the pass, which I think also...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What happened with what...
Let's be clear. Nobody's suggesting he's up to something, and nobody's suggesting that he can't have that pass, but it all needs to be done official and clear. And the reason why is because when the Tories did anything close to that, they were piled upon. You can't have one set of rules for us and one set of rules for you.
Boris locked up.
Everybody's got to abide by the same rules. What happened with Wahid, I think, is because he's known, he's, you know, on the mainstream of the party, he's a big supporter of Tony Blair's. He's known people like Wes before they were MPs. I went to a fundraiser at Wahid's, you know, 10 years ago, where there were people there who are now MPs who weren't there. He's been very supportive. And what happened, I think, is because he was very involved in the election, people just basically regarded him as effectively just another Labour staffer, and didn't actually stop to think, and they should have stopped to think.
This was the Conservatives.
Yes.
The Labour lot would be all
absolutely,
over
and they need to, that's why they need wise heads.
And the way that Lady Starmer is being treated compared to Carrie Johnson is absolutely astonishing. And I think that you said she's a public figure. Actually, they made a great play in the run-up to the election of her being a private figure, how she wanted to stay out of the limelight. She didn't do anything publicly on the campaign trail. She just occasionally appeared by the Prime Minister's side. She has actively made it clear that she did not want to be in the limelight. So why is a Labour peer dressing the Prime Minister's wife?
Yeah.
It just does not make any sense.
I mean, I think what happened is that because he's a TV executive, I mean, the reason the glasses cost $5,000, I guess, is because they would have gone for the thinnest possible lenses because they look best on telly, etc. Because that's what his background. He made his money in the company that made The Big Breakfast, his original money, if we remembered, and that changed television. So, I mean, I think what they need is they need to have a wise head who is stepping back. I think at the moment they're all, the kind of war and briefing about Sue and special advisors needs to end, and they need wise head to make sure that the rules do apply to them as they apply to everybody else, because Sean's right in that.
We're potentially about to have a football regulator, OK, which is a massive political decision. It may well prove to be the right decision, who knows, but it's a big political decision. It will affect Arsenal. Arsenal are going to give him a hospitality box, seemingly free of charge as far as we can gather. That could be deemed to be a conflict of interest. There's also the public opinion aspect to this. He's potentially about to ban ordinary working-class football fans from going to the pub and having a cigarette in the pub garden whilst they watch the football, while he gets free hospitality boxes.
Non-smoking.
At the Arsenal. Oh, there's a massive
The issue here is there's two things. We shouldn't have to dig into the detail, and the reason we shouldn't have to dig into the detail to see that this was right or wrong is because of all of what the Labour Party had done over the last 3 to 4 years. If a Tory MP looked sideways, they wanted him arrested. Now, apparently, it's all right.
Well, they were a bit more than that they were arrested for. Some of them gone to jail.
Apparently, it's all right for them to do these things. And all I'm saying is it's a double standard. And it will come back to bite Keir Starmer, because people are taking a register, and a register already is too long.
Look, as one of my colleagues in Westminster said, Keir Starmer is the first Prime Minister to look through the world through sleaze-tinted glasses, and I think they had a point.
Well,
it's a good line.
Well, there we are. Look, OK, and also as well, Sam, just tying a bit, I know that the Express have been doing quite a lot of work when it comes to winter fuel payments as well. The optics here are pretty bad. As I will just bang the drum again, I'm doing a fundraiser for Friends of the Elderly, which I really do hope, if you can, I don't want you to put yourselves in a difficult financial position, but if you can, please do go to justgiving.com/page/save our seniors. There's also a QR code on your screen right there, right now. We're just shy of 148 grand that's been raised. We started on Monday, so it's not bad going. We started at 9 p.m. on Monday, so not bad going at all. We are going to try and get that up over the course of the next couple of weeks or whatever to around £260,000, because that's the amount of grants that Friends of the Elderly managed to give out to people last year. I've actually got an interview coming up shortly with someone right at the top of the tree for Friends of the Elderly, which I think it might be worth you watching. So if you can, give a few quid. It's justgiving.com/page/save our seniors, and the QR code is on screen. More about that in just a few minutes' time.